Okay, Chair, we are going live in 3, 2, 1. Chair, we are live.
Welcome everyone to the Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 meeting of the Police Accountability Board. Access the meeting remotely. Join from a PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android device. Use the URL in the public packet. If you do not wish for your name to appear on the screen, use the drop-down menu and click on Rename to rename yourself to be anonymous. To request to speak, use the raise hand icon. Join by phone, dial the number of the packet, enter the meeting ID, and if you wish to comment during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 and wait to be recognized. I want to acknowledge our land acknowledgement in the public agenda packet. If you're interested in it, you can read it there. And with that, we'll go to our agenda, item 1, call to order and roll call.
Thank you, Chair. I'll now proceed to roll call. Chair Cayetano.
Here.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Here.
Board Member Bozo-Charteau.
Here.
And Board Member Wells is currently absent. With that, Chair, we do have a quorum. Just as a reminder, because quorum, there's currently 4 members, and because we're at a quorum of 3, we will have to take unanimous votes up until we either get 4 members present or for the rest of the meeting. On behalf of the ODPA, I want to acknowledge that our data analyst, Saeed Mendeed, and our investigator, Daniel Weinberg, are here joining us tonight, as well as myself, our policy analyst, Murillo. On behalf of the BPD, I want to acknowledge Chief Lewis, who's online. We also have Lieutenant Bonaventure here today, as well as Arlo Malberg, who will be presenting to us later today. With that, Chair, call to order and roll call is complete.
Thank you, Acting Director Murillo. Let us go to agenda item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. I believe we actually have small adjustment to the closed session items. We will, I'm going to recommend striking 11A and 11B, considering that we don't have any negotiators representing us right now, and also B is now moved. Are there any objections to that motion?
We still need a second, Chair.
Sorry. Second. Not used to this.
Second. I'm unclear why we need the motion. These are standing items, right? So we don't have to discuss them. I'm not looking at it though. If one is our standing item, it's an update on the regulations.
Yeah, we don't have a representative in the city.
Yeah, but we don't need to formally amend the agenda. They're just standing items with the understanding that we need not address them at every meeting.
Okay. Are you okay striking 11B?
Still the motion on the floor, though.
I'll withdraw that motion. I'll withdraw the motion. Can we strike 11B? Okay, 11B.
Oh, sure.
Okay. I'm gonna move that we strike 11B then. And
Okay.
ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, and Vice Chair Wilson, are you okay with that motion?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay, we can now proceed to public comment. As a reminder, speakers are generally allotted up to 3 minutes, but may be allotted less time if there are many speakers. They may comment on any matter from the board's jurisdiction at this time, except confidential personnel matters. Before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that we did receive some public comment via email, which was before we were able to supplement the packet. Just want to notice that we will be providing a supplemental in the following days with those correspondences as well. With that said, I'll proceed to those physically present first, and then proceed to our virtual attendees. With that said, okay, we have our first speaker. There'll be 3 minutes on the clock.
You can set up here, please. Thank you. Unless you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay.
Could I get clarification as to why council regular is not here?
We can't interact with public comment at this time, but we'll be providing later updates.
Okay, here to say that I am really distressed about the firing, the termination of Council Aguilar as someone who fought for the PAB and the Office of Police Accountability and Director. I was delighted when he was hired. He really understood police oversight. He was skillful. He was committed. He was dedicated. He was courageous. And I couldn't have hoped for a better director of police accountability. And I still value and want to praise his courage, his determination, his commitment, his willingness to fight for what was right and what the charter meant the PAB and the director's office to be and the powers they were supposed to have. And I'm really distressed that my city of Berkeley, which I've always been proud of for its progressive stance, has gone back on all the reforms that many of us fought for so hard. And, you know, I thought when George Floyd happened that we really had some momentum, a real wave of doing something about what's been so wrong about the criminal legal system. And it's so disappointing to see all the pushback, the destruction of the reforms, you know, people not remembering why we needed those reforms so badly. So I just wish you the best to keep on working on police oversight, but I'm very sad and wish Council Aguilar were here so I could thank him for his service.
Thank you. Any additional speakers for public comment? Okay. Next speaker, allow you a second before I start the camera. Okay, we have 3 minutes on the screen.
My name is Kit Saganor, and I'm also very sad that the city council has dismissed Director Aguilar. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. This seems like another step in the ways in which this board has been stymied in its work. I'm glad to see that there's going to be also something for the 2 board members who, after, you know, working for many, many years, trying to push this huge stone uphill only to have it stopped and not their efforts stymied, have given up. That's sad. But there are still 4 of you. There's still a lot of work to do. I know that it's more than you could accomplish, even if we're getting the resources that you need. I will just mention one item that which the council should be seeking your input, and as far as I can tell, is not seeking your input. And that has to do with the contracts with block safety. As you know, the police department needs one more step to go to have a contract that will expand the surveillance program, put cameras that would be trained on pedestrians and stuff people on the street and so forth. And there's been a real denial of the risks involved. The contract language that I saw said, but if I should present with a warrant signed by a judge, the city would be told, unless they were not legally permitted to tell us, which is a description of a FISA warrant. It's basically spelling out to ICE, if you would like to get access to all of our images, go get a FISA warrant. There has been recently changes to expedite the FISA warrant program. We know that hundreds of FISA warrants were approved last year. We know that FISA warrants can be as broad as asking for all the phone records of everybody making phone calls in the United States. That was done some years ago. So it is definitely the case that if these additional cameras are put in place, those as well as the APR cameras that are already here can be accessed by ICE. And we should be being asked about this, and it makes me very unhappy that we're not. But thank you for continuing to be here and to doing the work. And I really, really hope that things change so that you become supported in these efforts rather than stymied.
Any additional physically present speakers? Okay. Okay, 3 minutes are on the screen.
Communicating myself, former vice chair of this body, Runboard commissioner. citizen of Berkeley. I just don't know what to say. I should start with thanks for the long and arduous work that former Commissioner Leftwich and Calvita did on this body. I served with them during my time as the first body of the PAB and on the PRC before that. And their contribution to this community are significant. The work that's, in your resolutions tonight, speaks for itself. And it is a shame that they had to depart because of the obstruction that has become all too common in this city as it comes to police accountability. As I know, sadly, this board knows. I think I was only going to be speaking on that, but of course, we have learned of the termination of the director of police accountability, Council Aguilar, who, in a brief capacity, I served on this board, but I can say truly to the public, he was someone willing to interact and learn about our community. Someone who was dedicated to the work of police oversight, who knew that this challenge of coming to Berkeley and being the first was not going to be easy. And upholding what the voters put in place, right? Not what council did, not what the police chief did, what the voters of this city put in place in terms of police oversight was take hard and arduous work. And ultimately, because of his courage, he was terminated without cause, I should say. And there's simply no defending it. There's no defending the obstruction that the department and Chief Lewis continues to do as we speak. There's no defending the council's decision on this matter, though what's theirs to take. And, it's hard to know what to say. I mean, it's quite shocking. I mean, we have a board with 4 members now. We have no director. Staffing issue before any of this. I know this is not going to be easy for you all. And I want you to know, just as a human being, as someone who cares about this work, I'm here to help in whatever capacity I can. I'm here to advocate. We're going to have to work collectively because what is happening in this city is extreme. Initially, folks were saying this is about, well, we need to give police more resources. We need to let them do more crime fighting. And all of these tropes that you hear over and over in policing. And now they predominate our city. They predominate the department. We have a chief who doesn't believe in the charter and has no capacity, in my opinion, to serve basically as people. And that's what we do, but again, I can't stress how serious these times are.
Any additional public comment?
Yes, George Gilman, I'm a member of the Community Commissions. First, I guess I'll say ditto to everything that's been said. I think, I won't recap it all. It's a tragedy what's happened to the director and what the lamented former members been forced to step down for. I would want to comment on item 9, D as in dog, about canines, and there's a point I'm glad you're proposing and requesting to have a role and have time to do your job. And I hope that we don't think this is the best kind of policing that we can do in this era. I want to say in the Twin Cities, in St. Paul, they did some great things. They also pulled massive amounts of tear gas on demonstrators. And the point here is if you don't have it, you won't use it. If you have it, you're going to use it. So I hope we pursue that. I think that I want to say in closing with that, the community has your back. I mean, there are a lot of people that understand what you're going through, how hard it is to work without your director, and to have far from enough people. You were underappointed for years, and I just can't see that as separate from the attempts to tear down this institution. We value your work. I'm speaking for a lot of people, and I know you'll continue to do great work. And I just want to symbolically um, present to the members and staff and then the activists in the room who support you, if I may approach the bench. This is from all of us to all of you. Thank you for your work. Thank you. We love you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. And are there any additional speakers who would like to provide public comment currently in the room? If not, I'll proceed to our virtual attendees. Okay, seeing none, I'll now move on to our speakers on Zoom. I currently have two hands raised. The speaker who currently remains virtual meetings guest. You have been granted permission to speak.
Hi, my name is Wendy Alston. I am here on behalf of the Berkeley Friends meeting. And I don't know why my picture's not showing, but I am here to speak on behalf of 9A through D. First, I wanted to say thank you for the service of those board members who've resigned. Sorry to see them go, and the circumstances that have occurred under which they felt it necessary to resign, and the circumstances which have resulted in the upcoming departure of Director Aguilar are inconsistent with the wishes and the votes of the city of Berkeley. Want to thank you, Director Aguilar, for your service throughout your time here. The department and the board have always acted with strong professionalism in educating us as the residents and communicating the facts with good analysis and advocating for oversight, transparency, and accountability to the council and the other aspects of city government. We're going to miss all of you a lot. Really appreciate the board members who are continuing to serve, and we will continue to support you and your efforts to continue bringing this message to the council and getting a change of mind or change of person on the council itself. C and D are important. Look forward to hearing your recommendations on the next steps. The as the items continue before the policy committee next week before going to council. It's very helpful to have this board's strong recommendations that we can bring forward to the council and work hard to make those positions prevail. Again, we're opposed to rescinding the ban on tear gas, OC, and smoke. Any change in the use of any of this equipment needs to comply with the military equipment statute, and it doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the speaker, Steve, you've been granted permission to speak.
We got some time members.
We currently have one additional hand, which is the
Hello?
current speaker.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm surprised that there aren't a lot of people here who are outraged by what's been going on. I certainly am, and I go back at least 3 minutes on this issue of the PAB. But What gets me is that the city council gave the director no warning. They just fired him. And so, though they have to give him a month's uh, uh, salary, they could have given him some warning that they were unhappy with what he was doing, and that would have permitted the whole thing to be put into the community venue. And people from the community could have come forward and spoken about what they would like to see or not see, and it would have been a more democratic process. The council didn't do that. And I think that needs to be held against the council by all those who can do that. And so I'm speaking to this board now because I don't understand how the director and the board became separated in terms of status with respect to who is controlled by who. I know that we fought to get the board independent of the city manager, and we did that. But right now, it seems that the board and the director are not responsible to the same higher officials. So I would propose that this board take a vote against what the city council has done and said and declare that it does not recognize the firing of the director and calls for a city-wide community discussion on everything that has been raised by these city what do you call them activities, which are very much in tune, it seems to me, with the kind of executive committee or executive activity we have now from Washington um, uh, in terms of the way political policy is given down to us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, we do have one additional hand raised. Maria Sol, you have been granted permission to speak. 3 minutes are all on the screen.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I certainly appreciate each of you trying to do what is an essential necessity, which is to be accountable, because especially now, with so much rampant unaccountability and lack of transparency, we need hopefully to do a lot better. And I have spoken many times before about my concern about the militarization of the police and or the planet, because we're basically on a verge of mutually, you know, we're on a very destructive path if we choose to see this accelerating conflict everywhere and stress everywhere and desperate concern for safety and well-being for ourselves. When we declare anyone an enemy, it's a path to a lot of damage. And as one speaker before spoke, when you have a tool, you tend to use it. I certainly do, because I have lots of tools. And yet I also have to be careful how I use tools. And when I did work in Chicago in the 60s, it was like, are you kidding me? And we remember to serve. And then the question is, serve who? Everyone deserves to be okay, which means everyone must be okay, which means some folk shouldn't have all the power to use without transparent accountability. And we're watching this all over this country now. So Berkeley used to be the city of peace and, you know, goodwill and community. And I really would like us to reclaim that, as if we de-escalate emotions and certainly prevent all of the disparity economically and desperation. If we come back to peace, there might be. And this is always what I speak to, because we can talk about how many guns, and I heard about the thermal evaporator weapons that the United States is so proud of utilizing. It's like, are you kidding? It's like, it's easy to destroy. I would rather create Berkeley as it used to be and can be, as an example of community where peace and harmony and goodwill without flesh-eating dogs, etc., can exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. With that, we have no additional speakers.
Thank you, everyone, for public comment. I think the next action item is agenda item 4, which is the approval of the minutes. We'll go 4A, minutes for the special meeting, January 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, are there any objections to approve the motion to approve the special meeting minutes of January 17th, 2026? Seeing or hearing none, that motion carries. We go to 4B.
4B, any changes? Yeah,
I'll move.
And
I'll second it. I guess 4B.
are there any objections to the motion to approve the minutes for the January 21st, 2026 meeting?
No. No objection.
Seeing or hearing none, the minutes are approved. We can proceed to item 5.
Let's go to item 5, the acting director Murillo. I guess this is your report tonight.
It is my report tonight. First of all, I want to acknowledge the various communications our office has been receiving during the transition after the dismissal of Director Aguilar. We're trying to get through as many of those communications as possible, but we just want to let you know that we received it and we'll be getting to them as soon as we can. As Chair Cayetano mentioned, in the meantime, I have been appointed as the acting director while the city moves to appoint an interim director and eventually conduct its nationwide talent search to appoint a permanent director. In the meantime, our office is staffed by our 2 staff members that are present here today. In addition to myself, we'll be continuing to support the board in the capacity that we can to ensure that its critical functions will continue and continue collaborating with all the relevant stakeholders to ensure the continuity of the board. As part of that, sort of my core duties in the meantime, we'll be assessing the workload of the office and the board to make sure that we properly prioritize the items that are coming up before council and that are required by charter. And I'll be taking any questions.
Board, have any questions? Did they? I understand that you may have had a meeting with the mayor's office. Did they give you a timeline for when they expect appointment of an interim director?
Yeah, I currently don't have a timeline. Yesterday was just again sort of transition, ensure the continuity of the office. But I will ensure that both the board and the community is aware of any relevant timelines. But I don't have any additional information at this time.
And are there any items that this week or next week that you see needing additional effort into the transition for the
in terms of just items that the office is prioritizing, we are in the middle of budget season. I know that's also a topic that the board's interested in and we'll be receiving a presentation at its next meeting. Sort of to follow up in the board's interest to review the budget and comment on the budget. Those are sort of some of the key priorities that we have, as well as ensuring continuity as the board will discuss today, the regulations and the interim meetings for that. And that's currently what I have. Again, we'll be conducting an assessment of what's coming up for us to ensure that one, we're still meeting timelines we're required and coordinating relevant stakeholders to ensure that we get the work across or request additional time for those items. But I haven't completed a holistic assessment just yet.
Well, thank you for stepping in. We really appreciate it. If you need anything, just, with us and appreciate it, so that we can support you. Okay, we're gonna go to agenda item 6, chair and board members report. And, I guess I'm gonna take a point of privilege and give a little bit of an extended statement tonight because of, I was going to give a statement about the recent resignations. But, obviously events this week have also overtaken those, in some regard. But I thought for the public's sake, if, it hasn't come, for, the community to know, I wanted to read, part of the statement that, former board members Leftwich and Calavita, put out, and also part of the statement that, former director Aguilar put out, and then also share some of my own thoughts. So from former board members Leftwich and Calavita, we know that the PAB is only an advisory body. If our findings and policy recommendations have not always been accepted, that is understandable. What is unacceptable is the consistent pattern of reversals, the delays in providing information critical to doing our job, and the ongoing rollbacks of policies previously agreed to after extensive research and collaboration. For more than half a century, Berkeley was a model for other cities seeking meaningful police oversight. No more. Over 84% of Berkeley voters established and empowered the Police Accountability Board. Their will has been ignored, and the advances they envision have often been subverted. Because we believe our continued efforts to fulfill the mission of the PAB will be in vain, we must regrettably resign. Do not come to this decision lightly. We have enormous respect for our PAB colleagues. We applaud their dedication and expertise, and will miss them deeply. It has been an honor to work with them and former colleagues on important issues over the years, and we are grateful to have had the opportunity to be of service to our community. And then the director, I spoke with him on Monday, and he released a statement, but I'm not sure if everyone was able to read it, so I'm going to read part of it. But there are copies available on the desk over there for anyone that's interested. I'm going to read part of it, not all of it. He said, across the country, communities are watching to see whether promises made in the wake of high-profile cases of police violence will be honored or quietly walked back once the spotlight fades. Berkeley is not alone. Across the country, independent oversight bodies are facing structural pressures that test whether reform commitments will endure. Berkeley's decisions in this moment will reverberate beyond one office or one director. This isn't about the loss of a job, it's about whether democracy keeps its promises, especially when oversight becomes inconvenient. Communities deserve institutions that follow their own charters, respect lawful oversight, and understand that public trust is earned, not presumed. I am deeply grateful to the community members, staff, and board members, past and present, who have supported the work of independent oversight in Berkeley. My decade in this field has convinced me that accountability is not the enemy of public safety, it is its precondition. And then well, it was on Monday night, and I received a call from a 510 number, and I declined it. So I declined calls numbers that I didn't recognize, and then got a call back, and it was from the mayor. And the mayor informed me of the action they took on Monday, and I expressed to her my surprise and my disappointment, and also talked to her about some of the structural difficulties that we've been facing, and her office. So they released a statement, and she forwarded that to me, and also, expressed to me that she wants to work with us on a more continued and intensive basis than has been before to restore our numbers to a full 9 cohort, and also, to restore the Office of Police Accountability, and also this board to what it can be. And after that, I released a small statement. I'm just going to read for the record. I said, I'm surprised and disappointed by the city's decision to dismiss Hansel Aguilar as Berkeley's Director of Police Accountability. Dr. Aguilar was a committed and strong advocate of police transparency, accountability, and civilian oversight. While Dr. Aguilar served at the pleasure of City Council, he worked hand in hand with the Police Accountability Board in advocating for those principles. It is difficult to comment on the exact nature of his departure, as neither myself nor the PAB were consulted by the City Council prior to his dismissal. Berkeley as a city faces systemic issues preventing effective independent civilian oversight of law enforcement that will not go away simply because of Dr. Aguilar's dismissal. I look forward to working with the city council to address those issues and support police accountability in Berkeley, including restoring the credibility and trust that has been lost during this process. And on a personal note, Hansel was, a friend of mine and also a mentor. I joined the board while my first foray into police accountability was when he was on this board, and I've gone to multiple national police civilian oversight of law enforcement conferences with him. And in those communities, he has a great reputation for being a committed and strong advocate for police accountability. And so, he will continue to remain my friend, and I'm grateful for his service to this community. I wanted to invite other board members if they have any comments or questions, or not more comments, just to give them the floor.
I do. One, I just really appreciated your statement, Chair, and also the very thoughtful resignation letter that our former colleague from this board issued. And I just have been reflecting on our vacancies and calls that I've gotten asking for recommendations for folks to serve on this board. And one of the challenges that I've had is that this is a really difficult assignment because we are so systematically disrespected and disregarded. And I think that you've heard a lot of that in the resignations. You saw it in the summary dismissal of the director without any formal input from this board. And it makes this quite challenging. And what I would say to the community, as well as to the media that I'm excited to see is here, is that while this is happening, there are other things underway that I really think deserve attention, and we just don't know how to get the focus in the right place. So we submitted a report, I think this was maybe a year and a half ago, on BPD's last budget request to council. And in that report, we noted that the Berkeley Police Department comprises nearly 30% of the city's budget. So what we're seeing right now is one after another successful proposals to increase the use of expensive military and surveillance equipment and to expand the reach of the department in a city that is very undeniably relatively safe if you look at our actual crime statistics. So just here tonight, we will be looking at the department's proposal around unmanned drones. When you look at the annual operating costs as estimated by the department, as far as I can tell, this is adding nearly $500 million a year to the department's budget. This is what is happening while there's this distraction underway of firing a staff, not filling our board. So I just really express my own frustration, my own difficulty in recommending people to join us on this board, and ask that you do hold the city council accountable and that you pay attention to what's going on in the aggregate here. Not letting any of us not being distracted by kind of the piecemeal breakdown that is happening sort of under our eyes, because there is a bigger picture that we all need to keep focused on. So those are my remarks. I also, do want to say, I disagreed with our director many times, and he'll be the first to tell you that. But he was so committed to this work. And I'm really sad to see the way that he has left the role. I don't think he deserved it. I do wish him well and hope that he lands in a place where he can ultimately be more successful than he was here. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks.
Sure. Any other board member comments? Okay, with that, we will move on to the chief of police department. I believe Chief Lewis is online here.
I am. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. I know that coming up shortly, you're going to have a presentation from both Lieutenant Bonaventure and Arlen Momberg, so I will keep my comments brief. but I did want to share some updates on some other priority work or some priority work that we have underway in support of our 2026 priorities. Obviously, one major endeavor that we have underway is completing the surveillance technology ordinance process to address some of our public safety responses. And so what's before you today is some of the policy work that goes into the surveillance technology ordinance. And really what we're looking to do is work forward on the advances in public safety that we've seen and experienced through the use of our ALPR technology, but really address some of our staffing challenges and our financial challenges in the city by looking to this technology as a resource multiplier. The studies are out there, the information is out there that these technologies can help improve response times, investigative effectiveness, and prevention outcomes. It puts staff and deployment strategies in smarter places and with safer outcomes both for our officers and community members. Some other work separate from that technology work that we have underway, but also focused on addressing some of our staffing challenges and looking to improve effectiveness, is focused around restructuring some of our existing resources to make sure that our resources match demand and our workforce capacity. And so to work on that or to support that, one of the successes that we've experienced over the last year was also around our community service officer program, where we infused them into our patrol operations. That's been a successful program, and we're looking to expand that program by adding more officers to that task in the next few months. We've also are laying the foundation for developing as a pilot a full-time staffed flex team. That's a team that will work out of our patrol division with a focused response using that crime analysis data. They're targeted, flexible deployments. It relies on a technology. Some of the work that's been happening in that arena has been occurring on an overtime basis or pulling together resources. This will be a full-time team dedicated to that. You've seen some of the successes that we've had reported in the retail theft crime area. We've had a lot of success. So that's also coming in the next couple months. And then another effort that's underway has to do with our traffic bureau. As you know, we are a partner in our City's Vision Zero work, and we are focused on ensuring that we are doing our work in line with our three-prong approach, and addressing violations that affect serious and deadly injuries and collisions. For example, today we had a collaboration with our regional partners to do enforcement in our most dangerous intersections, addressing our most often collision-related factors. But our traffic bureau on the daily is now been reallocated to spread coverage over more days of the week than they were prior. Those are all goals that we are looking at to address. Again, like I said, our staffing challenges, knowing that we are facing a structural deficit in the city, budget development, and recognizing where funding will have to come from for some of our technology products. We're absolutely looking at what's reasonable for us to be able to hire in a given period of time, what cost salary savings we have, and what are the ways to right size our workforce in the police department to do the work that we know is part of our primary mission. There's a lot there. I know you have there's gonna be a lot of questions, I'm sure, and information that we'll be gathering out of the presentation you'll have in a bit about our drones, our UAS systems. And we look forward to collaborating with the PAB to receive your input as it guides us in our policy development. So that's what I had to share. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Chief. Is there any questions from board members? I don't see any questions up here, Chief. Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, of course. Have a good evening.
Okay, we're gonna go to the subcommittee reports, which I believe is gonna be a lot of reshuffling because of our changes. Is that right?
That's correct. And for members of the public, in the agenda packet, page 18, there's a little bit of additional context as well as the current subcommittee structure for the board. Some of the priorities here are going to be one, First, just filling in the subcommittees that currently don't have any members. Only have one member, and then reassigning or removing members in subcommittees that have two or more in this case. As you all are aware, subcommittees can constitute a quorum of the body. With our current number at 4, that means our subcommittees are topped at 2 members per committee. So with that said, the regulation subcommittee is one of those committees that's going to need either reappointment or be converted to where it's a liaison system where the board appoints a liaison to take up the work that was being done by board members, former board members Lethbridge and Calavita.
So I wasn't, were you clear that it needed to be 2 people?
I think it can be one. Does it need to be?
I think.
It needs to be to a subcommittee cannot operate
Our
with one member.
commissioners will-
Okay, are we able to take down the subcommittee and appoint a representative?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. So, you know, for everyone's information, the regulation subcommittee was a subcommittee that board members Lethbridge and Calavita were on. Working with the city to finalize our regulations, which govern the misconduct hearings and misconduct investigations process generally. And, you know, that's been going on since March 2023, I believe, and 3 years almost. And so there's a lot of institutional memory that was lost, but I believe we haven't had one person who's willing to take on
Thanks.
at least for now, in order to bring that out. So I guess I'll move to dissolve the regulation subcommittee and appoint Vice Chair Wilson as our representative. If that is
I'm sorry, what does that mean if we dissolve the committee and appoint a representative? I don't follow that totally.
And subcommittees are required to have 2 people because
Of the rules.
Of the rules. It's effective, functionally it's the same thing.
Okay.
Functionally it's the same. Yeah. We have liaisons for other areas where there's one person, so this would be transitioning from a subcommittee to a liaison.
Got it.
And do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call for this. It's a short list, but okay. Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Bozo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yes.
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, so acting director of fund, I think let's skip to the ones that are exceeding the maximum right now. If that's all right.
That's, yes.
Okay.
So that would be the outreach and engagement would be the first one. It's currently Chair Cayetano, Board Member Wells, and Board Member Bozo.
So we need just one person to not be on this committee. I believe this is the one that also governs the commendation
Yeah.
process. So
Why don't you step down, Chair? You got your hands full with other stuff.
um
And I can just make.
yeah, I was gonna, okay, yes. I
Step down.
you know, if someone tells me to, I'll take something off my hands right now, I'll gladly accept that. Okay. Is that a motion?
Yeah, you have the motion?
I know you do.
Okay, I move that the chair is withdrawn from the outreach and engagement committee.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Bozo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yeah.
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next subcommittee that's in a similar position would be the policies and practices on encampment appearances. That's Chair Cayetano, Board Member Wells, and Vice Chair Wilson.
I will also step off that one, so Vice Chair Wilson, who has been taking point, and Board Member Wells can remain on it. And that committee has been working with other outside researchers as well to examine best practices of encampment sweep policies. Restricting and guiding police conduct during encampment sweeps around the country. And so that's something that has been a focus for us for over 8 months now.
And was that a motion to withdraw?
Yeah.
Okay, could I get a second, please?
Oh, okay.
Okay, Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Buzzell Chartreau. Vice Chair Wilson
Yeah,
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes.
Yes. And then, I believe the arrest quota prohibition, its purpose has been done, so we would just need to, this, a motion.
I'll make a
to-
motion to dissolve the arrest quota prohibition subcommittee.
I'll second.
Okay, Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Buzzell Chartreau. Vice Chair Wilson
Yeah,
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes.
The motion's carried.
So for the policy reviews, I do know that there has been 3 applications to the PAB recently. And I'm wondering if there's a way we can pause the policy review committee until we hear back on those applications, at least until the next meeting. Is that possible, or do we need to?
We could pause it as a formal motion. In effect, it's essentially dissolving it because the board would have to vote to reinstate it. A bit of the nuances,
I
but
see, okay, well, the other option is for someone to step in provisionally. So anyway. I would be okay with, if anyone wants that provisionally, just pausing it for now.
Okay.
I mean, it is very important, the committee can't stop, but, I'm thinking about, yeah, at least until the next meeting. Also. Okay, just till the next meeting,
can I make another motion?
then, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, I make a motion that we, do something, I don't know what the verb is, related to these policy complaints that were assigned to board member Colavita. I think that we should just, pause them or close them in recognition of the reality of our being very understaffed as a board and staff being extremely understaffed. This is the reality of what has to happen.
yeah,
So,
Um,
so that's my motion. What, again, I don't know what the correct verb is, close. Close the complaints.
is the intention to pause them or just to close them outright?
I think we close and we have a long list of complaints that have already been assigned to staff as well, right?
Okay. Okay, do we have a second on the motion to close policy reviews 2025-1 and 2025-4?
Second.
Okay, Board Member Wells,
yes.
Board Member Buzzell Chartreau. Vice Chair Wilson
Yeah.
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Put everything on this list? I think it is.
Yes.
You know, these closures and pauses are really a direct effect of our, being understaffed, and it's something that I have been really vocal about with different council members, that our needs, on the board and the work that is being put to the side because we're understaffed, so it is really a priority for me, and the mayor, honestly, she has expressed to me that she's working with other council members to get us back to 9, and to appoint an interim director as quickly as possible. Okay, let's go to. Losing the flaps here. Okay, here we go. Let's go to 9A, which is the discussion and action on the adoption of resolution honoring board member Kitty Palvita, board member Julie Lethwich.
And for members of the public, you could find the resolution starting on page 3 of the supplemental packet.
So, for this, conversation, I think I'm gonna ask, Director Murillo. If you can, to read the resolution, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And I could start with resolutions, which is the first one for board member Calavito, which is 2026-0001. Title is Resolution of the Police Accountability Board in the Office of the Director of Police Accountability of the City of Berkeley, thanking Dr. Kitty Calavito for her service and commitment to civilian oversight. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the City of Berkeley is committed to transparency, accountability, and community engagement through the work of the Police Accountability Board, and whereas Dr. Kitty Calavita served with distinction on the Berkeley Police Review Commission and later on the Police Accountability Board, providing years of continuous service to Berkeley civilian police oversight system. And whereas Dr. Calavita is a sociologist whose work focused on the sociology of law and criminology, and she is a chancellor professor emerita at the University of California, Irvine, and a distinguished affiliate at the Center of the Study of Law and Society at the University of California, Berkeley. And whereas during her tenure, Dr. Calavito played a central role in shaping and advancing police oversight policy in Berkeley, including developing policies to limit switches of individuals solely because they were on supervised release, or co-authoring the board's report on fair and impartial policing, bridging a rigorous sociological lens to issues of bias. Bringing a rigorous sociological lens to issues of bias, equity, and accountability in law enforcement. And whereas Dr. Calavita chaired and participated in multiple critical policy and practice reviews, including the review of major incidents such as the Downtown Task Force and Bike Task Force texting matter, bringing rigorous analysis, historical perspective, and principled leadership to the board's work. And whereas Dr. Calavita co-chaired the Police Accountability Board Committee on Final Regulations for handling investigations and complaints, contributing substantial time and expertise for the development of permanent regulations intended to strengthen civilian oversight. And throughout her service, Dr. Calavita provided the board with exceptional institutional knowledge, intellectual rigor, and an unwavering commitment to community-centered accountability and civilian oversight. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Police Accountability Board of the City of Berkeley that the board and the Office of the Director of Police Accountability express their deepest gratitude and appreciation to Dr. Kitty Calavita for her extraordinary service and enduring contributions to civilian police oversight in Berkeley. Be it further resolved that this resolution be presented to Dr. Kitty Calavita as a token of sincere appreciation and recognition for her leadership, scholarship, and dedication of public service, and the copy be transmitted to the Berkeley City Council for its awareness and acknowledgement.
Thank you, Director Murillo. I guess I'll open it up to, usually when there's a resolution, there's an opportunity for board members to comment, if they want to, on the honoree. Comment, if there is any comments. Do we usually have, I remember there being some, is there a public, like, do we allow members of the public to comment on?
The board is
Sure, we've done
within
this
its
before.
authority to move to suspend the rules to allow for public comment.
I mean, I would be open to that for a board member who has dedicated 7 years to this work. People are interested in that. I don't know position really. Okay, I will move to suspend in order to open public comment on this item and this item only. If you we'll need a second.
Yes.
We can do them combined, yeah, this item.
Okay. So we still have a live motion. Are you amending it to include both of them?
I bet for this item. In the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, who was this?
I'll second.
And there are no objections to the motion?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the motion carries. Chair, would you like me to read the second resolution?
Yes,
Before we go.
and then we'll go to public comment on this item only. If you have a comment on another item, you will likely be cut off, but I just wanted to just say that in advance, so there's no confusion with that, what we're doing here. Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
So the resolution for board member Lufwich is resolution number 2026-0002. It's titled Resolution of the Police Accountability Board and the Office of the Director of Police Accountability of the City of Berkeley, thanking Julie Lufwich for her service and commitment to civilian oversight. Whereas the City of Berkeley is committed to transparency, accountability, and community engagement through the work of the Police Accountability Board. And whereas Julia Leftwich served the city of Berkeley through the Berkeley Police Review Commission and later the Police Accountability Board, providing continuity, institutional knowledge, and leadership within Berkeley's civilian oversight system. And whereas Ms. Leftwich brought legal expertise to her service on Berkeley's oversight bodies, supporting the board's work through careful legal analysis and sustained focus on civil rights, transparency, and accountability. And whereas during her tenure on the Police Accountability Board, Ms. Leftwich helped lead complex policy and practice reviews involving use of force, vehicle pursuits, and body-worn cameras, consistently grounding the board's work in community values and established oversight practices. And whereas Ms. Leftwich chaired the Police Accountability Board Policy Review Subcommittee and co-chaired the Committee on Final Regulations for handling investigations and complaints, playing a key role in translating community concerns into concrete and actionable policy recommendations for the city of Berkeley. And whereas Ms. Leftwich's collaborative approach, legal acumen, and principled advocacy significantly strengthened the board's deliberations and advanced the mission of independent civilian oversight. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Police Accountability Board of the City of Berkeley that the board and the Office of the Director of Police Accountability express their sincere appreciation and gratitude to Julia Leftwich for her distinguished service and lasting contributions to police accountability and civilian oversight in Berkeley. Be it further resolved that this resolution be presented to Julia Leftwich as a token of appreciation for her leadership and service, and that a copy be transmitted to the Berkeley City Council for its awareness and acknowledgement.
So now we're gonna move to public comment on item 9A, specifically the resolutions to honor former board members Julie Leftwich and Kitty Coggan.
And Chair, just a point of order, how much time would we be allowing for this?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Thank you. We'll start with those physically present. If anybody would like to provide public comment at this time. Okay, 2 minutes are on the clock.
It's Sagamore. I have been privileged to serve as a public member on subcommittees with both board member Leftwich and board member Calvita. So I have seen their work close up, not just, of course, at meetings like this one, but in mostly on Zoom meetings of the subcommittees. That was true with some PRC as well as with the PAB subcommittees. Both of these women worked very hard, put in many hours, smart, reasonable, well thought out, very careful, excellent work for the city. And so many hours of work over the years that they have given of themselves, in spite of other responsibilities or other calls on their time and energy. This really is quite a loss for the city that they have been unable to continue, and it's particularly sad that the reason they are unable to continue is that there was just too many obstacles to going forward with that work. This is a real loss for the city. Thank you very much for this resolution, recognizing their greatness. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any additional public comment?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're doing this. I would add one thing about Kitty Calavita, which I don't think is sufficiently reflected, which is how important she was to the development of fair and impartial policing. I understand, and I know because I worked through a lot on that, and it's a very complex subject. She wasn't the only one, but I think that's a really critical part of her service. And in personal terms, I feel like I tend to run maybe a little bit hotter than she. And she, I think, is somebody with her background in academia, was able to train me to maybe listen to other people more and remember what it is we're doing here. We're trying to make policy, and it's a long game. And so I think for her to have to leave like this, I think that demonstrates what a past we've come to. If she and Julie just had.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
Steve. two of my former colleagues, they both did incredible work. I served both subcommittees and report inquiries from PRC times. And when I started on PRC, I was, I guess I just turned 20, had a year in the city. And so they were both truly mentors for me, in terms of, my intellectual curiosity in terms of this work, certainly in terms of, pursuing law as a career. And, I think as George said, understanding the law side. Her, and I also say, former Commissioner Paravellis, they all told me at the time, this is gonna take a lot of time. We're with you. We understand the importance of oversight. And I joked back then about, well, we get recognition if you serve for a year. Is that long enough in this work to give it recognition? And they said, it's hard work, but probably not. It takes a lot of time. And both of them dedicated so much of it towards this work. And, as they said in their own statements, them stepping away in this manner, it's not because, I can't speak fully for them, but certainly they're willing to continue to work if the work is valued. And that's what has been lost. And, I certainly hope that will change. And, I'll say for some of the work talks about the difference between the law on the books and the law in practice, and how that difference can allow for a lot of wrongdoing and a lot of good when it's recognized and taken care of early. And I think now we have to understand the law on the books must matter, and that must become practice in our city. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Any additional speakers before I transition to virtual public comment? Seeing none, I'll now go for virtual attendees. Ilana Auerbach, you can grant them permission to speak. Again, this is public comment on item 9A specifically.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to appreciate all of you for your service. I want to express how infuriating it is to listen to Chief Lewis speak. The crime rate is flat. If you look over decades, crime rate in Berkeley is flat. I understand. I'm just going to say this for 10 seconds. That when it was $60 million and now we're over $100 million for the Berkeley police, crime rate is the same. So this whole farce of staffing. Okay, I want to talk about almost 3 years ago. These are wise women who just resigned. I honor them, I respect them, I appreciate them. They are following in the footsteps of another extremely wise woman named Cheryl Owens, who almost 3 years ago resigned. She was leading the PAB's investigation of the TextGate allegations, right? This is what she said 3 years ago when she resigned. There is no collaboration on any front in this city. Nor do I believe there's a commitment to civilian oversight of the BPD by the city manager, the city attorney, or the chief of police. When the PAB and the police chief disagree on a complaint finding, the city manager always sides with the chief. I don't trust the city manager to give much weight to findings from the investigations into the text allegations if there are findings against the police department staff or the chief. She resigned when Chief Lewis was appointed before the TextGate investigation was even completed. So this is a farce, and I would encourage each of you who I highly respect and regard, and I appreciate your service to the city. I encourage you all to resign, because you need to show the city that no, we are not putting up with this fallacy that there's police oversight, with this using Hansel Aguilar as the fall guy. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one additional speaker, the speaker appearing as virtual meetings. You've been granted permission to speak. Again, this is public comment on item 9A.
Yes, this is Wendy Alshin on behalf of the Berkeley Friends meeting. Who's been active on police oversight since 2020. I just wanted to be on record. I spoke earlier in commendation of the service of both board members, Calavita and Leftwich. And I wanted, on behalf of the friends, to thank them again for their service and thank all of you and commend you for your service, hard work, and continuing this fight. Our voices need to be heard, and we need you to outline and analyze these issues and propose solutions based on your expertise and study of them. So thank you all for continuing the work in the same legacy as Calavita and Leftwich board directors. Thank you again.
Thank you. With that, Chair, we have no additional hands raised.
Okay, thank you all for your comment. We'll bring it back to the board here and I'll open it up to the board for any particular comments. Sure. Happy to go first if people would. You know, board members Leftwich and Calavita were the institutional brain trust of the Police Accountability Board and the Police Review Commission for them. And speaking about Dr. Calavita first, what I noticed first about my interactions with her is that, you know, she really had her eye on the ball. And what I mean by that is like she had a really unflagging commitment to racial justice, and that's what drove her to this work. And as one of the speakers mentioned, she understood the difference between law and how it's implemented, and that law is really only how it is implemented and enforced. If it's not enforced, then there is no law. And so when she brought that perspective, that commitment to racial justice and the understanding of how law works, like that really transformed our board and gave it life, and it really invigorated our policy work. And she brought that to, as another public member of the public said, to the mayor's, fair and impartial working group, and they really worked on BPD's sports policy and other aspects of policing and public safety in Berkeley. And so I was really appreciative of her work on the board. With board member Leftwich, the first thing that struck me with her was that, she's a policy person, and I worked with her on the policy subcommittee. And me and her, we have different approaches to policy work. And what I mean by that is she is very reasonable, very committed to collaboration. And we talked with the department through different policies. And every time I would say to her, this is our last best offer. And she would say, no, we have to make another last best offer. And so we would go back off. I would be like, okay, like we'll do it your way. We're gonna make another last best offer. And then we would go back and we wouldn't have an agreement with the department. And I would be like, okay, that was our last best offer, right? She'd be like, no, we have to go back to them again. And I'm like, we're gonna do it your way. Like I'm not gonna be forcing pushing the envelope. I want us, we're a policy committee. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna come to the table, and we're gonna sit with them, and we're gonna work through difficult issues. And that's what I respected about her. And so it was striking to me when both members of our board resigned and stated that they didn't feel like they could operate in the city anymore. Because out of anyone, I saw that those two board members really believed that the system could work for it if it wanted to. And when I was reflecting on their absence and their leaving, it really did make me think that we've seen a lot of people leave institutions early where they have been existing through multiple administrations for 20 years. And bad institutions, they either turn you into bad people or they make good people leave. And so I don't, it took them 7 years to get to that point. I'm not 7 years in, and I don't want to become a bad person here. So I really do believe in the work of this board and I believe in the work of accountability, police accountability in Berkeley. And I see us up here really carrying on their legacy. So I thank them for their work.
Very well said.
Thanks.
I have the meeting things to get to that I know they're very interested in us getting to, and just feel their spirit. I would say, I would just add that Kitty and Julie read every single word that was presented in the material for every single meeting. They read it in paper format. They come to the meetings with stacks this thick, annotated fully on hundreds of pages. And that is a level of commitment and dedication that you can only admire and be in awe of. So I just will really miss them. And ready to move forward. Adoption of the resolution.
Two of them in the same motion.
Sure.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, board member Wells,
Yes.
board member Bozo Trento.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Yes.
And Chair Cayetano.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, with that, we'll go to our item 9B, discussion action on the proposed policies and acquisition reports for unmanned aerial systems and drones, first responders. Just to give a little bit of context, I don't know, where would you like to sit? For you want to sit there?
I prefer to Howard.
I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't.
We were talking about it beforehand, or was it?
It's difficult. I mean, we can move. Can we move? Would you rather sit or would you want to stay?
Seems good, there's two of us.
Okay. You can. Should we move the table to the middle, or is that possible?
We can, you know?
Are you? Will you present?
That's.
Oh, okay. We'll have you present there. I just want to make sure you're where you want to be. Just for context, before you present, the drone item went to council. And council, it initiated this process that is required by ordinance where surveillance items have to go to the PAB. The PAB provides a recommendation on whether to adopt certain uses or acquisitions. And then it will go back to council in March. And so I asked the chief if she would be willing to have someone on her department present. And she also sent in the packet, there's a lot of materials in the packet about red lines to the current policies. I believe it starts somewhere on page 21.
Well, it's also the supplemental.
And the supplemental. I will take it to Lieutenant Bonaventure and Arlo, who is here from the police department to present. I also told the chief that we would gather questions after this and submit it to them so they could have more of a time to gather information and respond. So if that's the way that I think that's the most beneficial and effective. So
I'm sorry, before we turn it over,
Yes.
can you just clarify the timeline? So our 30-day time frame has been triggered, right, for review?
it was triggered when we were sent the policy. And yet I believe that the chief communicated to me, and if you can all clarify that, then that it will be presented to council the second council meeting in March, which is, I believe, March 26th. Is that right?
Yeah, that's our intent. And there's a little bit of nuance to the timeline we'll try to explain here.
Sure.
Okay, you're gonna explain the 30 days as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay, once there's further preliminary questions, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Malmberg. I'm the strategic planning and accountability manager for the PD. I'm here with Lieutenant Chris Bonaventure. Happy to be with you tonight. We're here to talk about, like you mentioned, our evolving unmanned aerial systems program, UAS drone, and to take you through some of the key changes and updates to our proposed policies. So as you know, we currently have an approved policy in place to call in drone teams from other agencies. So the only use model that we're looking to add here is drone as a first responder. And we'll get into what exactly that means. Most like
So in that key way, this is an incremental addition to what we are currently allowed to do our policy. But will, in fact, represent an enormous benefit to the community. Like the chair mentioned, the council approved a referral asking us to look into establishing our own drone program. So we've initiated that process. And so there are actually two local ordinances that govern how we acquire this technology in particular. So drones is the only thing that qualifies for both the surveillance technology ordinance and the police equipment ordinance as well. And so that's where we get the nuance of the timelines. The updated police equipment ordinance gives you 45 days with the documents required by that policy. The technology ordinance gives you 30 days with the documents required by that policy. And there's substantial overlap between the two sets of documents, and you'll see that. And we've done our best to align the language in both sets so that they're consistent while still meeting the requirements of each ordinance. So I heard the chair in your intent to give context for us tonight, submit some questions to us that we're going to answer by the next meeting, and then you'll have a final meeting after that for our intended council meeting to vote on our recommendation. And I know that the revised police equipment ordinance sets out some criteria for the PAB to consider when making that recommendation, but and I'll try to dive into those specifically, but I also know that the council is looking forward to your more general recommendations around the technology. So our overall goal for these 45 and 30 days, that we're beginning here is to be in dialogue, to answer the questions that you have and provide useful context, to hear your feedback and incorporate it where we can, and hopefully by the end of this process, we're left with just a few well-considered thoughtful differences for council to resolve that I think we all will have been successful. So looking forward to kicking that off here tonight. I also just want to quickly note that parallel to our process with PAB, we submit all the documents to the city attorney's office as part of our standard council item review. So they have our items as well, and as we get any edits from them to our proposed policies, we'll forward them on to you so you can take those into account when your consideration. Okay, today we'll just kick off by going through the high level points about the policies and try to avoid reading verbatim. I know you have those in front of you, and we'll do a deep dive and sense questions. I mentioned we're trying to keep them consistent. Lieutenant Byron Schultz give us an overview of the proposed UAS programs. And then we'll make some comments on a few key subsections of use policy, and then I'll walk through the pieces of the impact report that speak most directly to that review criteria that I mentioned. All right, thanks, Alex.
All right, so drones and UAS. So UAS is unmanned aerial systems, and we talk about this. We're talking about field deployment drones. So these would be drones that would be in vehicles. So officers would be driving around the city, and they would have these drones in vehicles, able to deploy these drones per the police policy at any given moment. These drones provide eyes on the situation, get a better situational awareness of what's going on. Officers, sergeants, lieutenants, commanders in the field would all have a visual representation of what is actually going on scene without actually having to be there. These drones can hit their location quicker as well. And also, when it comes to interior, we can use these drones to clear the interior buildings when we're allowed to do so. So instead of sending an officer to go inside of a residence or a business to go clear if we're looking for somebody, if we have a search warrant to enter a residence, instead of sending a person to go look for that person, we would send a drone to go do that. And these are things that we actually have in our policy now, and that we ask other agencies to help us with. So, give you an example, I'm part of the special response team on the for the police department. And anytime you do a replan and search warrant, they use us, it's a high risk search warrant. And so we, part of the protocol is to ask for drones, get permission for drones. And then we have to ask for outside resources to assist us. So wherever, if we're in Berkeley, we ask Oakland, we ask Alameda County. If we're in another city, we can ask their jurisdiction, Fremont, Stanley, and so forth. And most of the time, those agencies are willing to help us. They're always willing to help us. It's just a matter of if they're able to always help us, if their resources are able to help us. And that's not the case every time. So that is QAS in general terms, okay? Privacy protections. Drones are only launched for specific emergency calls. It's never for random control. Drones are reactive, not proactive. Data stored on devices uploaded to evidence.com. First round evidence retention policy procedures that we have in place now. Very similar to how we store all pieces of evidence now. It goes into evidence.com. And with these drones, all of that we go to evidence.com. Next slide. So drones as DFR. So this is a different method. It's called drone as a first responder. This started several years ago in Southern California, Chula Vista, and it started with having drones on the rooftop and having visual observers. So they would get a call for service, and their drone would get sent to that call for service. You'd have a visual observer on the rooftop, and they'd have to be able to see where the drone was going. They'd have to have line of sight with cover. That has evolved in what we are proposing now, which is DFR 2.0. What this is we have drones on rooftops. Let's say there's a policy building. You would have a drone in a dock, and that drone would be incorporated into our CAD system. Here you get dispatched. So we had a call for service that we wanted that drone to go to. We could be using this iPad, we could be using a phone, anything that could connect the pilot could connect to. And we could dispatch that drone to that location. That drone would fly itself using the GPS coordinates to that location. The camera would be pointed at the horizon the entire time until the drone gets to the location. Once it gets there, then the pilot takes it over to camera. And the camera gets pointed to try to find out what is happening. That gives the aerial perspective. Officers would have the ability on their phones to see what's happening on the drone. Sergeants, lieutenants, and so forth would have the ability to see that as well, so they can plan approaches. This supports de-escalation. Overall, just more information before officers get there. And I will say that looking at all the data, if all the drones get there, the majority of the time before a police officer gets there, or EMT or disaster fire engine actually gets there. I do want to give an example real quick of how a drone helped us in San Metro. We had this wasn't DFR, this is field deployed drones. So we had an instance of a domestic violence kidnapping report here. Our officers responded to the location of the car error reporting the scene. That car ended up in San. We had officers in that location looking for the vehicle. They found it, and they were waiting for people to come back to the vehicle. They tried to contact those individuals rang. They were to surrounding block. So San Leandro Police Department and the officers that we had in San Leandro at the time, conducted a perimeter around the block. And they would try to search for this person. They couldn't find him. San Leandro Police Department has field drones. So they used those field drones to get up into the block. They were able to see these drones have technology where they could see like signature, and they could see that on a trash can there was an actual signature, like somebody had just touched him. So they went to go look, opened up the trash can, and sure enough, that's what they were looking for was inside. Without that drone, it's very unlikely that we would have found the person hiding in that trash can. It supports de-escalation in a way where you get this aerial perspective and you're able to see what's going on. We several times we get calls for service here where we get a person with a weapon. Sometimes they describe a gun and it's not a gun. They describe a knife and it's not necessarily a knife. Sometimes it's a stick or just something they have in the hand. We have to go to that call for service as if it is what it is. Whatever we're told it is, we have to go and prepare for that, right? So if it's a man or woman with a gun, we have to approach that as a man or woman with a gun. So we're going to set a lot of resources and get to that as quickly as possible. With a drone as a first responder or even a field deployed drone, we can send that drone immediately. That drone is likely to get there before police officers do. Well, they eyes on the scene and be able to see exactly what's going on. What is in that person's hand? Is indeed that person armed with a weapon? Did they put it down? Is it not a weapon? Is it a stick? And so forth. And then we can measure our response based on the information we have from that aerial perspective. Great, cover that. Go to the next slide.
Yeah, but just to recap, when we come back to this year, the three chief say to improve response time, investigative quality, and opportunities for de-escalation. That's kind of really what it boils down to in terms of the public safety value. So I want to go just through some key subsections of the 611 policy. First among them, 611.3 privacy. We've heard in our we hosted a community meeting regarding a number of different technologies, spent a long time on drones, and took a lot of questions from the public. We've heard a lot concerns about privacy. So this is a value that we share, and we want to make sure is reflected throughout the policy, and then also in this section. And just to give emphasize our shared value on that, and also give a how we're approaching it. So we'll have written into our policy limitations and guardrails around how it can be used that just by nature of those permitted and prohibited uses protect privacy. But then we're also taking advantage of technological features that are built into the drones to just like automatically create some conditions for greater privacy. So Lieutenant Byron mentioned it. For the GFR, it's part of the policy. On the way to a scene, launching from the launch point, the camera on the drone will be pointed toward the horizon, so it won't be capturing any private images of backyards or anything on the way to the scene. Once it gets to the incident, the call for service that it's responding to, then the camera will point down and start collecting that visual evidence. So and then beyond that, every flight, every time the GFR drone goes out on a flight, comes back within a short period of time, that flight log, including the call type that it was flying to, we uploaded onto a publicly available transparency portal. So if you ever see a drone flying around, you'll be able to just go on the website. few minutes later and see, what it was doing there. So you'll be able to, confirm that we weren't in fact, following policy, not doing random control or, excessive surveillance. We're responding to a call, as permitted, by policy. So, this combination of policy restrictions and technological features built in is how we want to, approach privacy. But we've taken a lot of input already from the community. We're really interested in your feedback as a board on this topic in particular. Thanks.
Okay, permitted use. So US provides a real-time situational awareness, high-risk situation. It supports de-escalation by creating time and distance, reducing the need for immediate physical engagement, and helping prevent violent encounters. They assist in search and rescue, disaster response, fire and hazardous incidents, and the safe documentation of complex scenes. UAS also help locate suspects, monitor fleeing vehicles from a safe distance, and clear structures remotely to minimize risk. As a resource multiplier, UAS enables rapid verification of calls for service, reduce unnecessary deployments, and allow officers to remain available for higher priority needs. Overall, UAS deployment is designed to protect the community, reduce risk, and improve the efficiency of public safety operations while respecting privacy and safety principles. I want to talk about the resource multiplier. I got to see firsthand the product from the county, and they explained an incident where there was a call for service for an individual who was the reporting party stated they believe he was stripping parts off of him. And so, okay, so the call for service was put in. They believe the vehicle was stolen and this person was taking parts on. So they sent their DFR. So the DFR took off, went to the location, zoomed down, and saw a person working on a vehicle. So said, well, maybe this is their car. So they got the license plate, ran the license plate, matched the registered owner with a person who was actually working on a car, and called off all responding officers. So that person was just working on a car. And traditionally, they would have an encounter with police for no reason. But in this case, DFR was able to just see what was going on, give officer that aerial perspective, and allow us to do a quick investigation without any contact with that person, any negative contact with that person. So you see, we identified a list of uses that look like best practices. You'll find in the section of the list of times when we intend to use that tool in the policy. We're happy to receive questions after this, and then we'll address them at the interview. Okay, prohibited uses. We recognize privacy concerns related to drone technology are of the utmost importance. This policy establishes clear guardrails to ensure US are deployed responsibly, not randomly, or for arbitrary surveillance. Their use is strictly limited to defined public safety purposes and guided by strong privacy protections. These drones will never be weaponized, lethal or less lethal munitions. They will never have any facial recognition ability, and no biometric capabilities. And again, drones are reactive tools. They are tools to respond to calls for service, critical incidents, disaster incidents, fire incidents, EMS incidents, not proactive incidents.
Okay, so we'll switch over to the impact statement. That's required by the police equipment ordinance, as well as AB 41. AB 41 written, put it in policy 709. But for all intents and purposes, to report mirrors the one you for the STO as well. And like I mentioned, the police equipment ordinance references the criteria laid out in AB 41 that the PAB will consider making the recommendation. And so wanted to just point out the pieces of the report that speak most directly. We're not the only pieces, but the ones that speak most directly to those criteria. So you'll see here that the first one is around alternatives, right? And so we know from the experiences of other departments that drone programs provide substantial improvements to the service that police are able to provide that we cannot currently offer. The substantial felt improvements in like I was saying, response times, investigative quality, and opportunities for de-escalation. So an alternative to achieve those same gains without the technology would probably be hiring a lot of officers. And we are trying to do that. And you guys know we're well below our authorized staffing level, the level authorized by council. But we also know that it's going to be extremely difficult to achieve the staffing needed to produce the same gains in efficiency and effectiveness, investigative quality, et cetera, opportunity for regulation, by officer hiring alone in the next few years. And honestly, if we do nothing as other departments begin to adopt this technology, it's going to impact our recruitment and retention efforts as well. Another alternative, like we've been saying, we do currently have the ability to call another agency to streaming drones. That's not sustainable. More meeting our public safety needs. And I'll let Lieutenant Bottom just speak a little bit more to that.
I touched on it before, but in our policy now, give request for us to get permission. And so on every operation, you have to have an agency assistance. Not every time that they can. So we have to rely on that. Also, in active incidents, I've been on scenes where we had to follow somebody to the house, and they were in the house. We had the house surrounded, but we couldn't make entry until we had some other means to get into that house. We weren't going to send an officer into potentially very dangerous situation. We know that there's tools out there to help us and get in there and get a visual of something inside. So we requested drones, but we were on scene waiting for 2 hours. 2 hours. We had several officers surrounding the house, just waiting by there. So we were at the window of the other agencies. You have to see they're available. And this is not just a safety issue. We have somebody inside who we believe is dangerous enough that we don't want to approach them without seeing them first with a drone. And we're sitting outside for several hours waiting for this tool to arrive. So, and that's not the first time that's happened. That's happened several times. And then there's also times when we just can't get that service. And so really, it probably is the officers who give us that action.
Is this impact statement included in the packet?
Yes, it says, you'll see, well, I mean, I don't know what's in your packet, but we submitted it, it's both policy 709 and impact statement. So it's memorialized in policy 709 because of how AB 41 is written in the aspect policy. And then this equipment ordinance asked for an impact lane in page 25. And so we've insert the fewer documents from my
Page 25 of the regular packet?
that's correct.
No, I'm talking about the impact statement. I don't see this impact statement in what we have. I mean, I don't see the alternatives.
Yeah, okay, for the italicized, oh, you don't see alternative section? No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
okay,
here we just can't find it, but.
Right, the italicized text at the top. Is outlining language in AB 481,
Mhm.
that BMC 2.100 references as criteria that, the PAB would consider.
Okay, so like but you filled it in for us essentially, like, there's no alternative, what, this language
So,
is here.
so the impact statement also requires that we submit a report covering these sections
Okay,
and a few others as well. And I'm just highlighting the interpretation, the sections that most directly relate to those criteria
okay,
that you'll primarily be.
because I don't,
Where is the alternatives in our package?
I don't have to.
I don't know. We can forward it to you, I don't see it in the.
okay.
Sorry.
I will win that before makes it to, you'll see, also the next one. Especially on mitigation, that relates closely to the second, criteria laid out in before we want to speak to, both public safety benefit and the risks to civil liberties. So we've touched on both these issues already in the presentation. I'll spend just another quick key here because they're both so important. In terms of public safety, we really do practice to make a material difference in the experience of public safety in the community. One of the core principles of crime deterrence is that the swiftness and certainty of getting caught are the two biggest drivers of prevention. And PFR provides huge impact on both of those. And then some of the high situations like Lieutenant Bonham just spelled out for us, UAS can potentially prevent a dangerous confrontation by giving that remote ability to clear a house. So the benefits of public safety are big. And then in terms of this is a liberty, like I outlined earlier, we were approaching these mitigation strategies through a combination of the positive and technological features that are available to us. And again, we're really looking forward to your feedback on what we're on this topic. Okay, the third criteria considers costs. Those are outlined in the report. Our initial estimates, those are, of course, subject to change. Depending on, you go to help negotiate, go to the vendor. I know you all are aware that the structural deficit that we're facing in the city, as I mentioned. And as well as our checking challenges, we anticipate this technology works as a resource multiplier, right? So it'll help us work and be more efficient with the staffing that we do have. And we also expect that this technology to be funded directly by folding some of our vacancies and using those savings to pay for it. But considering the impact on the budget, we would expect this to end up being a neutral cost to the city.
Is there, I see costs outlined in what we have, but they're disaggregated. Do you have just these are the one kind of ongoing costs aggregated? Maybe that's what's on your screen, it's not in our packet. I can't.
Again, I don't know exactly what's in your packet. There's some like specific things that the ordinance bill asked for in terms of cost. And so we lay that out in that way. But yeah, that's a question that we're having to bring back. If there's a different way to see it laid out, and we're back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Is this can we hold questions until the end of the presentation? Or like?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
let's try that.
I know, I just wanna.
I'm not following like what I'm seeing on the screen and what is in the document.
What, yeah.
That's all, go ahead.
We're almost through.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the last one. So the final criteria doesn't have a corresponding section in the impact statement. It asks about prior use of the equipment that we're looking to acquire. Like we mentioned, we have used drones, in collaboration with other agencies, and there have been no instances of non-compliance with that use policy. Prior with our prior uses of UAS. So those are the four criteria. Please let me know if you haven't found excited, and we like continue to send those over, but again, this is the beginning of the process, and we're really looking forward to, you know, being in this dialogue with you and, receiving your questions, providing our answers, and, you know, seeing if, there's some clarity and, you know, potentially tightening up some language, that would help us get a line on what's the best, way to bring a drone program to Berkeley. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Harold. So I think in terms of structure, you know, I'm gonna invite the board to make observations, and ask questions. I think that, you know, when I was talking to the chief about this presentation, I think we both agreed that, you know, there are some questions that require investigation and there simply won't be answers. And for those questions, if there's not an answer, Director, if your staff could write down the questions and keep track of them, and so that, you know, the department can come back and perhaps provide a written response that they're also available to the public, or provide a response to the next meeting so that they're also available to the public in that way. I think that, you know, just in terms of exchange of information and getting the best information possible, that might be, but there might be some low hanging fruit that you can address, like, is there an impact statement that we have? But that's sort of what I was thinking in terms of the structure. I would run the code, and then at the next meeting, you know, we'll have a more of, you know, a policy discussion on our end as well. And then at the meeting after that, the first meeting in March, we'll have our proposals to vote on. Sorry, we'll have initial proposals at the next meeting, and then we'll have our final proposals to vote on the first meeting in March, because that's when we need to get it to council. We need to go to the first meeting in March.
Okay, and you're confident that we aren't gonna blow the 30 days under this construction?
Yeah.
Is it clear? We'll do it on 30 days of starting.
It started.
Started last week, but let me just explain, the 30 days is not a cutoff for us to stop considering. It's an unlocking mechanism for the chief to submit to the council. And the chief has already told us, or told me at least, that she plans to submit it to the council the last meeting in March. And so if we vote on our final recommendation the first meeting in March, that'll give us time to submit it to the rules agenda and for the council to consider everything. So we have this presentation, and we have, you know, further dialogue at the next meeting, and then we'll have our initial recommendation and the final recommendation at the first meeting in March. And anything that, you know, we have right now, we can also authorize someone to, you know, to talk with the department, to answer questions.
Thank you. I didn't want to mention that. I want to continue to, you know, offer that, to anybody that's interested to, come be with us, you know, one-on-one or whatever, works for you guys. I'm happy to take time to just really talk through all this.
But yeah, I do wanna, thank you. I do wanna, you know, allow the board to give observations, because it helps us, you know, share ideas and also formulate a draft recommendation for the next meeting and, getting it toward that direction. But I think, you know, obviously getting the questions in front of us is the first step. But I'm just opening it up now to the board to, you know, ask initial questions, make observations, and if there's an easy answer, then maybe, there's an easy answer.
Yeah, especially our process, I think that's stuff we can try to develop today, but in terms of substance, you know, I think like let's try to group that all together and we more aware stuff.
I have a number of questions, but.
Yeah, I would like, just some order, like, we'll just go first order wells, and we'll just go down to it. Go ahead.
I have 4 questions. The first is, in the last year, how many times did you borrow a drone from an neighboring jurisdiction?
Like, maybe that's something that we don't know on, yeah. Yeah, okay.
But I would tell you that every search warrant, there's used by a special response team. We were able to see.
Okay. Do you know if there is a cost associated with that?
There has not been a cost associated with it. There has been costs that certain agencies may search on.
Okay. Can you share how many drones you're looking to purchase as part of this?
Yeah, our initial estimate is outlined in, the impact report would be to acquire, 4 total, field drones. And then 2 DFR drones. These numbers might change depending on, again, how pricing ends up being and, negotiations with the vendor. But the balance here to have, enough drones available for the, kind of calls that we face receiving, both for the CRT work, the field deployed, and then and DFR, and those have specific battery lives and constraints of how often they can be used. So having multiple helps, create some redundancy. Interior drones,
The interior drones are much smaller.
If you just share a little bit more on the multiplier effect and the impact on recruitment efforts this technology program will have?
Yeah, so as a resource multiplier. The example I gave you with connection funds, using their DFR for that response. Also, didn't have to go. They were able to see that it wasn't, the opposites that we see to be that. So that's one case scenario. Another case scenario, is, let's say you got a car blocking the driveway or something like that, or something where police officers still gonna have to go. It may or may not be actually through under somebody, is if you could get out of the driveway. But you know how the officer available is the same, right? You can actually say, look at the scene, is that actually happening? Is that also okay? And then 7-1 person, order is gone, what do you call, get it off. Pursue mitigation, right? So, let's just say we start pursuing within our policy within our city here. The can follow that column. So then officers can go back a little bit. You got it all on that. We have less people, right? Because you actually have the ILS guy who's watching this and it's neighbor agencies and let them know that hey, this is from your city, and so forth. So really is a resource multiplier in that sense. These drones can get support too. So whereas the police officer is going to get responded at 5 o'clock traffic, they still got to get through all the traffic from this way to town. They still need to get from here to the marina in about a minute. So we fly from the top of the speed and there's the marina in about a minute and be not seen unless someone's happening. So in many cases, yeah, or their boats or something. So I go out there and meet police officer and let us know. Indeed, a lot of times these other two boats are training vessels. So they're actually not in distress. And so the drone can see that and also hold the set up their road.
In terms of recruitment intervention, you might have run into this, but officers want to provide as much public safety as they can. They want to do their job safely. So if they see an agency that has tools that allows them to do that, they're going to be drawn towards that agency versus one that doesn't. And so if we're one that doesn't, we'll see a diversion of police.
We're seeing that. I can tell you that within this general area, San Francisco has drones. Drones is the first responder. Richmond has drones. Drones is the first responder. Within Alameda County, there's 3 or 4 agencies that don't have drones, and the ones that don't already actively looking to get that. So it's become a common rule. And it's an opportunity, it's another opportunity, somebody to try to it's a movement towards technology, it's a movement towards our data-driven technology, where we want to go, we can focus on, and it really supports that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah. What is the range of the drones?
This, that might be something we come back to give you a perspective, but I can say that Berkeley is uniquely well situated, because we're a compact and dense city, and our public safety building is right in the middle of the city, geographically. So, the drones have more than enough range to reach all of our city limits and spend time.
Would city limits be a restriction?
Not necessarily, if we respond to calls outside of city limits, that wouldn't necessarily be a harsh.
Okay. Yeah, the cost breakdown would be interesting, just like what the initial upfront costs are and then ongoing, just to make sure it's totally clear, in our mind. Well, I'm curious as far as, data, analysis on the, like, the use and like, I don't know, other measurements that you'll be utilizing with these drones, like what does that look like?
Response time, percent of calls that the drone was able to clear without any armed officer to the scene. Investigative leads produced by that evidence, and the outcomes of those cases. So, number of people located, and something that we haven't touched on so much today. We're focused on the police use of the drones, but these are going to be very useful tools for other city departments as well. For fire, to monitor wildfire in the hills with the heat signature, you'll be able to see like low level fires at their beginning, or if they're not fully put out. So that would be really important use. Some of the work to be able to monitor some of their assets. So there are other uses that will be available for these drones outside of the police context.
I also like to point out on the fire side, a lot of times the firefighters go to a scene on active fire and residents, and they have to be on the roof. A lot of times you see them out there, they've got a hole in the roof, the smoke or flames, and this would be an opportunity for that drones, oversee that roof before they get there and let them know what kind of dangers are there before they even have to get up on there for the ladder. This also supports the EMS, fire and EMS in the hand. And so there's somebody in distress outside of the location. The drone can go and help locate others. We didn't really talk about a lot about missing persons, but that's a huge issue. We have missing person on a daily basis here. Missing persons at risk, medication, intervention, and these drones will be able to get dispatched immediately and start.
What's the vendor process looks like, both for, I guess, the drone acquisition and then, like, I don't know, subscription services or something that would be required?
Yeah, so the ordinances that we're responding to here require a level of detail that requires us then to identify a potential vendor. So it's just one of the quirks of the process. But and then to your question about the like lease or how that goes, so the DFR would be a leasing program which would come with like hardware updates as they come out. And then the field deployed drones would be drones that we purchase ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, those are much smaller and cheaper.
Two last questions, sorry. And this one is, I'm sure, like kind of whatever silly question, but are there like weather restrictions or time of day restrictions for these drones?
There's weather restrictions on the drones. It's still depending on the size of the drone. So the DFI drones, getting a little bigger. I don't know specifically what it is, but there may be requirements and some FAA regulations would have to follow as well. There's still able to fly by the right.
And at night, no issues.
Yeah, you can fly at night, but cars, like bar, stuff like that, shit.
Yeah.
So we have to follow that.
Okay, and then the last question on the pilots. So the idea would be that essentially like you would be training people in-house essentially.
Correct. Not everybody would. Park outside, through the FAA, so they could, fly drones, and then there would be ongoing training. So we would have a select number of individuals, special assignment, who, get that training, and they would be assigned to go with other areas within the department so they can have strengths.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay. So I just want to go back and understand, everything that we got to. So we got policy 611. We also got policy 709. We also got policy 1303. So can you just clearly describe how these all relate to this?
Okay, so two ordinances that overlap only when it comes to drones. One of the equipment ordinance, which was recently revised by council, and the other is the surveillance technology ordinance. So this equipment ordinance is 45 days for the documents, SEO, maybe 30 days. The police equipment ordinance, and then there's one other law here, the state law, AB 481, that mirrors closely the requirements of the police equipment ordinance in the council more effectively, sorry, closer. So the police equipment ordinance requires an impact statement and use policies. So that's 611 and impact statement. AB 481 requires what they call a policy, but the requirements of it mirror the impact statement required by the equipment ordinance. So we've responded to the requirements of both of those laws within this policy 709 / impact statement. So that's on the police equipment side, 45 days review. Surveillance technology ordinance requires also a use policy, that's 11, and then a surveillance use policy, 1303. So there's a few like specific requirements of the surveillance use policy, and they overlap a lot with the police equipment use policy. So we've tried to align all the language across all these different documents as much as possible, that you're not seeing a ton of new information across different ones. But each ordinance in state law lays out very specific requirements for these policies in our reports. So we're trying to be careful to satisfy the requirements of the full regulatory landscape here.
So 611 is the equipment use policy. And
It's
so
our
1303
use
is
policy.
the surveillance use policy.
Correct.
Okay, so
Yes.
one is the drone as equipment and one is the drone as a surveillance mechanism.
Well, all of our surveillance technology have two policies, which is the use policy and the surveillance use policy. So it's not an artifact of it also being police equipment qualifying. But that's where 709 comes in. That is specific to the police equipment ordinance. The impact statement required by the local ordinance and state law.
Okay, all right. So I did notice one difference, I mean, I'm not doing a side-by-side comparison, but in 709, there are 14 articulated authorized uses for the drones, and in 1303 and 611, there's only 13.
There might be a formatting thing, but I without seeing problem, but
Okay, because the one that I didn't see is to respond to active criminal activity at mass gatherings or special events. So I didn't see that consistently in all three. So that's just a question I have, if there's any reason why the authorized or prohibited uses would be different in any of the three policies, or if it's just numbering or typos or whatever. You don't need to answer it right now.
okay.
Okay, and then in terms of the reasons that we're doing this, and I think you got to this a little bit as well as board member Wells. So we're doing it to reduce response times, improve our investigation quality, and provide an alternate response so that,
Create additional opportunities for de-escalation.
okay,
That's like my summarized version of it for, our system.
okay. So,
In terms of public safety about it.
okay, so do we as a city, have we adopted any standards around response times? Or has the department, like, what is it, what are the objectives we're trying to achieve with our response times?
We articulate, and report on our response times in our annual reports. There's not a metric that we're required to hit, but we can, look at what other agencies achieve and do that in our annual report. But just to give you like order of magnitude, our median response time to the high priority calls is, and that actually turns out to be a higher portion of our calls and contractor writing measures. It's about 7 minutes. And these drones can get to a scene in about 90 seconds.
Okay, but I just am asking if we have any standards on improving investigations. Do we have any metrics there, like goals that we try to achieve? I've asked this before around clearance rates. We haven't said any. Do we have any other goals that we're trying to achieve with our investigation quality?
There will be some updates to our like the strategic goals that get set out in the budget planning process that aren't published yet, but you'll see them there.
Okay, and then on the I'm playing alternative response. You're saying de-escalation. I mean, I think de-escalation is kind of alternative response, meaning you're not having to send law enforcement to the scene or fewer.
Right size of it,
Right size the response. So, but I guess I would step back and say that philosophically, I am not a police oversight member. That's just like this. I'm categorically opposed to drones or surveillance. I'll say that. But I do believe that as we're making these investments that have some ostensible basis in reducing the number of officers you need to do X, Y, or Z, that we should see that clearly articulated. So therefore, if the drone is going to be a first responder, are we saying there are vacant positions that will not need to be filled? Is that a commitment the department is willing to make? Are we saying that there are positions that can be redeployed from patrol to other parts of the department to perhaps increase clearance rates on the investigation side? So has any of that been stated?
So you heard the chief earlier today mention integration flex team that happens for those exact reasons to try to allocate our resources as efficiently as possible to meet the the service demands of the community that we want to meet. And then in terms of paying for the drones, salary savings I think is going to be our primary way of achieving that. And so to that end, yes.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to kill the messenger at all. I just would say for our follow-up, because I hear what you're saying, but is the department willing to make a commitment, or is council willing to hold the department accountable that we're gonna make this $500,000 a year investment in drones? And therefore, 2 positions that are currently vacant, we are going to unfund them. So that you cannot fill them because we are instead funding surveillance technology, which I think could be a reasonable decision for the governing body to make. But what I'm concerned about is we're making significant investments here and we're not putting any cap or limits on costs in other areas of the department. So
these are very good questions for us to follow along.
thank you. I love being told that. Okay, I think that's enough.
Yes. Well, I just have one follow-up. And that's just any consideration for how are you gonna measure the effectiveness of the use of unmanned aerial surveillance systems?
Yeah, and that's also like I think a good point of collaboration where like that we sit down and talk through what's possible to measure and what would be interesting measures for you. right? And so I think that's the conversation you should definitely have.
I have a few questions and some observations that don't require a response. On terms of the questions, I would like to hear more about the vendors that you considered. And specifically, it hasn't been brought up yet, but I know that Flock Alpha is one of the services that you're asking to acquire. And there's four, I got vendors, I don't know what to call them. There's three prototypes in Flock Alpha. I don't know exactly how they all relate to each other. Like, is Flock Alpha integrated across the three of them? Or?
Maybe that's the name of the unicorn intelligence.
Okay. Because I think, just so you understand where I'm coming from, the board has already repeatedly expressed concern with Flock, and I understand the department has, desires to have integrated systems, and so, in order for the board to make a recommendation, it might be helpful to know how much of these are a package deal versus how much of them can be disaggregated. And, based on the type right here, I can't tell that on the face. So that's something that I would like to follow up on if possible. Okay. The other question I had is around the transparency of, and you mentioned flight paths. There was a report of an officer who, not anywhere near here, but who used a drone, while he was on duty in order to stalk an ex-girlfriend. And so I think, obviously you won't be able to tell if that unauthorized use is unauthorized by flight path alone. And so I'm curious what mechanisms you would have in place to prevent that type of unauthorized use, because I don't think that the use of the public available flight path, which is is enough for that instance.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that story in particular. I think it's a good one for us to follow up on again. And another good one perhaps for us to sit down and say what would be convincing to you, and what would be, and what do you think about what's possible?
Yeah. I mean, subject to that is you talked about the horizontal camera, while it's being deployed. I'm curious if there's an auto lock feature that would allow you to that would prevent the camera from being moved until it is at the GPS coordinate that is reached.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works in what I'm trying to say in terms of technological built-in features that we can take advantage of.
It's the default that's put in there, and that's how it flies. Now, I'm not sure if it lock purposes and so forth. Want to be able to look around something, approaching something.
What is the relationship between radar and the?
So radar allows you to fly up to 400 feet. That's an FAA regulation. So the drone can go upwards to 400 feet. It's not going to bother you. You're not going to hear it. You're not going to see it. If you don't have radar, you have to fly below 200 feet. And at that range, you can, depending on the size of the drone, hear and see the drone.
So and then on the data retention, it's I hear what you're saying about the drone's ability to go to a site, see if the person is holding an actual weapon or holding a carrot, for example. I mean, I don't know the exact example that you were giving. In that instance, the verification is immediate. And so I wonder if the 60-day retention policy for evidence can be reduced to even 7 days if the verification needed for the drone to be effective is immediate. And so I'm curious why you would need a data retention policy that is longer than 7 days if the purpose of the drone is not investigative in nature.
Let's mark that one for our detailed follow-up.
Sure. We're getting a lot of my questions all over this there. So, and this is I think the council, when I spoke there about the annual report, there was some interest in examining how profiling by proxy, which is when a community member calls you know, on, someone they think doesn't belong there, for example, but they're really just like working and they're a person of color. We've seen that on this board, a couple of instances of that. And I'm curious, like, would it be your opinion that the drone could, how would the drone, like, interact, like, help accentuate or strengthen that policy of reducing profiling by proxy in the department? Because I think one of the concerns that was voiced even at the council was that community members call on other community members for suspicions. Suspicions can be, you know, there can be a lot of implicit bias there. And if you're having drones sent to predominantly, you know, Black and brown communities in Berkeley because of calls for service, then that creates an additional, like, you know, surveillance focus on them. But at the same time, you can also reduce
it's a call where either an officer had to go out or a drone had to go out. In the hour that the drone going out is less invasive option.
Yeah, that's what I was, but I would just be curious, how would the drone actually verify it? And that
It
is,
depends on the sergeant. Yeah, right, it depends on the information that we have, I would say that our sergeants right now are how used to the radio listening for calls for service like that, and we've had calls for service like that, and the sergeants have denied officers to go into those things. Because there just wasn't, there's no suspicion or anything there to actually send that officer, so, you know, first, find that that's there, supervisors are listening to the radio. And then if there is maybe some reasonable suspicion, having that drone go to that location and maybe verify something that it's not actually happening and let us know when there's no contact made. But again, that answer makes sense.
yeah, I think that's, I mean, definitely, I agree with that. In terms of other jurisdictions, I think one thing that I was thinking about was whether this would affect our mutual aid agreements. I don't know if like, how. If Berkeley would then be able to review, like, loan out our drone to other neighboring jurisdictions, for example, if that's something that the department has thought about. It's something that, because I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Like, right now, you know, if we adopt policies that have very strict, you know, restrictions and policy restrictions that, but another department uses our drone and they don't have that, like, I would be curious whose policy would be controlling and how we would be able to enforce that. That's something that I'm interested in.
Well, we would be flagging it.
Well, that answers the question. So when you borrow drones from other jurisdictions, they operate them, not you. Okay, that answers the question. Okay. And then it would be subject to your data retention policy, your, you know, reporting policy and all that. Okay. You know, just thank you, by the way, for answering these questions. I hope the list is being written. I think in general, you know, before I came on board, this is not more of an observation. It's not less of a question. I was involved in, as a law student, you know, doing different civil rights litigation, and one of the instances that I came across during doing that work was different police departments, not this one. After 2020, and this is 2021, following activists home, using the ground that they had, and also using, you know, they didn't have a good drone policy, obviously, but it was using it as an intimidation factor. And I think, you know, the item 10 about permitted uses to respond to active criminal activity at mass gatherings or special events, that to me is particularly concerning. I mean, we can see how even this current administration, how expansive of a definition of criminal activity they can take when it comes to First Amendment activities. I mean, and I personally, like, do not think that it should be used at mass gatherings or special events. I understand the use cases for people who are barricading, for example, or the other, but like when it comes to special events and mass gatherings, like, it's not really, it's more of an observation, and it comes from my experience with that. So, I don't know if it's a question, I don't know. It's
Well,
one.
I could ask a question associated with that.
Sure, go ahead.
Like, so let's say this happens and it does follow an activist home, like, would that be what actually would happen there in that instance?
Well, our policy,
It could,
we're not allowing that at all, and then the guardrails and safeguards that are in place in this policy. That drone, every time it gets used, that data in there, it's gonna end up on evidence.com. It's gonna have nothing to flag on. Flag wants to show where that drone flew, and it's supposed to have a case number attached to it, so it's very similar to. Like our laws we have right now that take place of our radios, so forth, so there's a little bit of information there. So you have a little bit of information, flight path, to explain why that can.
Okay. I don't know if that's totally, and that was where my mind went.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it would be like that example that I gave wouldn't be operated by this policy. I appreciate that. I have to think more about ways that are not as explicit as that. I personally don't have, I haven't been able to like really dig into like this spectrum of examples, so that's why I think the question is out there, but I personally will be thinking about that and how it interacts with this policy. And I would just, the flock thing is something that's of interest to me. I'm curious about that. Yeah, I'm just making sure that I capture my notes here. Oh, yes, last thing, more of a technical thing. You mentioned that it would be, the drone would be in, officer patrol vehicles, is that, and there would be a separate drone, a different type of drone that's, on top of the department building, I'm guessing, a bigger one?
Right.
And, the officers who are, who are authorized users of those drones that are in patrol vehicles, like, I guess, have you envisioned the process for that authorization process, that training process, and,
So the authorization process, it would be the same, the policy would be the same, for the drone. The user in the call, right? The reason to have the drones, field deployed drones, is to supplement the DFR drones, which are the drone on top. They can't fly forever. They could be up for maybe 30, 40 minutes and then they're back. Okay, batteries and so forth. So you have an officer down at that location, DFR drones up, it's gotta go back and get the batteries, they can put their drone up. If we have to go outside of our city limits, which we do many times, we can bring those drones with us. So every SRT deployment that we do outside of the city, we ask for outside agencies to assist with their drones. That would consist of one of the larger drones that also happens called as Overwatch. That drone would be able to see the location where you have a search warrant. You'd be able to see above that aerial view. And then you'd have an officer with the interior drone, which is it's a very small drone. And then once we were able to make some sort of entry point, then that little drone will go on the side. And so the idea is that officers are carrying these on the street, able to respond quickly and use them.
that makes sense. Sorry, I realized while you were talking that I had some more questions.
I believe we should move this.
Sure.
Because we have so many other items, right? Okay.
Is there a policy that governs how a drone would be activated in response to a particular call for service? So a type of call for service, then send the drone, don't send the drone, or would it be potentially all calls for service that the drone would be?
Well, that's what permitted in unpermitted uses tries to get to is not like naming call types, but outlining the scenarios.
So all permitted uses would potentially authorize a drone if it's available. You would.
Those are the uses.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand if it would be a default use or if it would be not a default use. That's what I was.
Or not, yeah, I mean. You probably more detail on that, but if you add the depending on whether the drone or how the personnel available, number of other factors.
Okay, maybe shout out those questions here. Okay, well, thank you all very much for being here. I know I appreciate it. Sitting here, and so we'll come back with additional questions and submit them, email and hopefully publish them, and if you, I don't know the best way to transmit answers or whatever, but we can do that. Okay, cool.
So, Arlo, is there any way you can stage this for the pepper spray item that's coming up?
I'm so far past and please leave, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So for this item, thank you. If we could get a list I asked for this before, so maybe you guys did it. When council considered the drone item, there were several, each council member went around and had questions that they wanted addressed when this came back. If I think you already prepared those for us, but if you didn't, if you could, or just recirculate it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. It sounds like we are not assigning a member of the PAB to run this with the department. If we were, I was going to suggest board member Wells, because they're doing some work on drones already.
I mean, are you open to taking this list of questions and seeing if there's a way for you to have a meeting with them and see if they have specific answers? Okay.
Okay,
That would be the
that's great,
Okay.
okay.
That would be.
I'm good. Can we go to pepper spray? I'm gonna ask that question. I was walking around. Yes.
Carlo, you're already been here, we just need you for fun.
Union employee. Oh, sure. Okay, we're gonna go to 9C. Discussion action on proposed resolution rescinding the DPD pepper spray reporting requirement and relevant updates regarding the decision and replacement of the police equipment and safety ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. The relevant material would be on page 61 of the packet. Just a brief overview. This was an item that came before the Agenda and Rules Committee last year. For various reasons, it will then later refer to the Public Safety Policy Committee, who had canceled a few meetings until it finally came back on January 29. The committee ultimately voted to pass along the recommendation with a positive recommendation with a few conditions. One of those conditions was essentially that formally requesting an opinion from the Police Accountability Board. So that's what this item brings forward to the board today. The memo structure with the recommendations up front, further feedback on the previous meeting, but I specifically like to draw your attention to page 64. One of the big questions we got and that the public were currently interested in is essentially comparing the four different reports and what's covered under the use of pepper spray report, the use of force report, the annual military equipment report, and overall the transparency of what's projected there. So we did a comparison of those three reports to the use of pepper spray report, just to help break down and visualize the differences. I would know, not necessarily a correction, but a minor, just noting it in terms of the use of force. We noted that the document isn't public, but they're public under certain conditions. So, for example, if there's death or serious bodily injury, that's when that report would be releasable to the public. So I just wanted to add that note there. And we have the relevant citations in that section. So I'll open it up to questions, just being mindful of the time. The alternative recommendations aren't necessarily in any particular order. We try to include our rationale for each one. But we're open to questions if there's any.
Can you just say what your recommendation is?
Yeah, so the main recommendation that we had provided was essentially to maintain the status quo. Keep reporting it. The number of reports that we had received, we had from our internal records calculated for or accounted for use of pepper spray reports last year. Yeah, so that's the first recommendation, or the primary one that we have looked at, which is just to keep the status quo.
Is the reason that you're recommending that because there are only four, or is there a different reason?
So it's a few things. I think we would have approached this differently if there was, for example, if there were like 100 reports or more every year. So primary consideration was that there was 4 that we were notified of. The second one is just the current structure of reporting. For example, a use of force report. Although it does cover a lot of the information that the use of pepper spray has, it's not publicly available. which has been a big, at least from what we heard at the Public Safety Committee meeting, that's one of the primary community concerns. That folks were voicing is that they couldn't have access to the narrative. Under the use of force report, it wouldn't be public unless there was a death or serious bodily injury, even though the incident would be reported on the military equipment report and the transparency hub. Of course, the details on the transparency hub are scarce. It really just provides an overview that it was a level 3 use of force, so it'd be like level 3 pepper spray. That's the information that would be immediately available to the public. On the military equipment report, what would be available is the short descriptions that we get at the end of the report. For example, we'll give an overview of, this is an example, but use of pepper spray on such day, and explain the reason, like in 1 or 2 sentences, why it was used, whether it was used to just make an arrest easier or whatnot, whatever the circumstance would be. So this recommendation is really just focused on a preservation of detail, in that sort of without really having an alternative to provide additional detail. But the alternative recommendations explore different ways that one, we would have to verify the transparency hub capabilities, and overall just the general interest of how much detail is enough detail.
Okay, are there any comments from board members?
I just have questions.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So, thanks for this table. The reason I was hoping that Arlo would stay is that I've been on the Transparency Hub and I'm trying to find this data. Do you need to download the CSV file and sort?
It's easier to find when you do it that way.
Yeah.
Because again, they're not specifically filtered on the transparency of the public one. And I might be wrong about this. Again, Arlo is more of a specialist on this, but you could filter it by level of force. I don't immediately recall if you could filter it by the specific type of that level. So I know you could filter by like level 1, level 2, level 3. I just don't know without downloading the CVS file and then using it on Word, on Excel, whether we could specifically pull those out.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that we need to consider addressing is this kind of common refrain now that, oh, well, everything's available on the Transparency Hub. Transparency Hub, I don't think is particularly accessible for the common citizen. And certainly not if you have to do what it is I'm trying to do now, like download CSV files and filter for data. That's just not the same thing as publishing an aggregate report. In terms of the military equipment report, I understood, Chair, that you were saying that because of changes that the council recently approved.
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe that to the controlled equipment reporting requirements?
Yeah.
Does that modify this table that staff has put in this item?
Well, it does, yeah.
So the annual military equipment report, my understanding is it's no longer going to include reporting on pepper spray.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so the use of force is not public. The annual military equipment report will no longer include pepper spray, and the Transparency Hub is not particularly accessible.
Yeah, on that point, trying to figure out how I should phrase this. When the ordinance was, when Councilmember Blackaby's supplemental was initially proposed, there was some back and forth. And the department suggested taking away the pepper spray requirement because of the existing reporting requirements. And it wasn't explicit what existing reporting requirements, they were referencing, but I understood that to mean the existing reporting requirement of, the 7-day notification, et cetera. So I was like, that's true. We have an existing reporting requirement. We don't need that really. And so now the fact, I'm like, well, we can't get rid of both. But that was my initial reaction when I saw the proposal.
So I guess I would just say, just for my part, I don't find the status quo particularly helpful, right? We get these emails and there's a use of pepper spray. I do think it's important to have at least annual reporting on the use of pepper spray. That's public and not something that you have to download CSV files to access. And not something that you have to do a public information request to access. So if there's a way that we could, achieve that result.
I would agree, yeah, I think we should recommend they put it back in the ordinance. And then,
And then they can get rid of the
Yeah.
separate reporting.
yes, that would be my recommendation.
Why don't you make a motion that that's our position?
Well, I want to hear from the board members first before making a motion. I want to cut short any sort of conversation.
Where do these reports, I'm sorry, they're public reports.
The chief emails them to me and the director.
And the director sends them to us.
And the director sent it to the board, but what I did realize was that, they're not. Are they published on the website?
Well, that was my
We
question.
haven't found them in a centralized location. The one that we found that was immediately available was from 2021, I believe. So they're marked as a public document, but they're not currently, at least to my immediate knowledge, in a centralized location on the website.
Do you want to give them public comment right now?
I just have a point of order. If there's an informational item that would be helpful to the conversation, then we'll accept it, but like, I don't want public comment at this point. Okay.
Informationally, they used to be posted under the off agenda memos. And they live there, which is its own site, on the city website, but I do think they stopped doing that at some point in the last couple of years. And they really should be posted published.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
I have information.
Informational item only, George.
So-
I'm gonna, yeah.
It's about pepper. I did the work, I did the looking into this question, after that very confusing meeting of the public safety committee. And so, yeah, the transparency hub is like a tiny little, 6-word entry, very,
Are you clarifying?
just telling you what there is. Then you look at the so-called CSV. And so there were 4 of these items last year. They register on that database as chemical weapons. That's it, nothing about what they are. So,
Okay,
you
thank
get the
you.
picture,
I
right?
appreciate
It's just not there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Information, the information is helpful for us for our deliberation. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, well, I think we agree, but I don't know where other board members are at in terms of this.
Wait, so what would be the proposal? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with the vice chair that the status quo of a report that is sent only to me and to the director every seven days after is not extremely helpful. But the narrative is helpful. And if that narrative can be captured in the same format as all the other military equipment uses that we see in the military equipment report. I don't know if you've seen
Which comes out annually.
it does. And I don't know if you've seen it yet because it comes out, in March, summer time. Then it would be captured and funneled into that at a single point. So it really the transparency hub has limited, as we've heard, visibility and data.
But if we went with this proposal, then the timeliness of when the reports would be released, it would only be once a year.
It would be once a year.
As opposed to every 7 days, or 7 days, within 7 days.
He's emailed to us.
Yep, understood.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some things that warrant 7-day notice. I think that out of the military equipment, the things that are controlled by the military equipment policy, like this would be the first thing that I would rank on what should be given 7-day notice to us, So that's, but I don't agree, with the strategy of eliminating it from both the military equipment ordinance and this reporting requirement at the same time.
So the full report would just go into the annual military equipment report. So the thing that we're getting rid of is that they have to rush to get it to us within 7 days of using it.
Do way of putting it. They don't have to rush to get it to us.
And they don't have to do duplicate. Well,
It would still be duplicate, right? Because the information is in the annual report. not all the information, right?
It wouldn't be duplicate, at this juncture, because it's been eliminated as a requirement in the military equipment
Right.
ordinance. So we would propose adding it back in.
Right.
But currently, prior to the amendment to the ordinance, they did have a duplicate reporting requirement.
This item was drafted by Councilmember Casoni before it was, the military equipment ordinance was revised.
Hmm.
Is there any other, do you have anything for our roles? No, nothing? I don't know if you're feeling comfortable with the motion or if you have a different recommendation.
So again, to restate it, it would just be that this, the report would be folded into the annual military equipment report. So all the applications of pepper spray would be included to report all the information collected. And the pepper spray report would now be in the military report.
Yeah, I guess formally, like, it would just simply be a matter of adding pepper spray back to the military equipment or the police equipment ordinance, so that it's subject to the same reporting requirements as every other police equipment. But the effect would be what you're saying, which is that what they provide to us is the same thing that they're providing to us on our shoulder time.
What would be the other effects of doing this, of doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is why having umbrella would be helpful. I think there are acquisition and use policies. Yeah. There are acquisition and use policies when it gets added. I think that there could be a way where we can make a recommendation that we could subject it to just the reporting requirement and exempt it from the use and acquisition. I think there's an easy way to do that, within the structure of the ordinance, and I think that would be in line with what the current status quo is like in terms of.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to go through a whole acquisition thing for pepper spray.
Yeah,
I
mean,
hear what you're saying.
yeah.
So friendly amendment to that, I agree with that. Okay.
Could we restate the motion just?
Well, I don't know if there's a motion here. Is that?
I think the motion is, to recommend that the council amend the police equipment ordinance or the police equipment ordinance to require reporting on the use of pepper spray. Period. So it's not to require acquisition and use policy development, just to require the use, reporting on the use of pepper spray. And if you give us some latitude right now, I mean, if the board understands that we have to, massage the recommendation to align with, to make sense, then I think we can work with that.
If it does rescind the resolution, like that's sort of the connection point.
Didn't it do it already?
No, they haven't done it.
Oh,
That's why they're coming to us, right?
Yeah.
oh, you were talking about pepper spray.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I thought you were talking about that they made the change to the ordinance already.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
yesterday.
All right.
Is there a second to that motion?
So I'm sorry, the resolution would be,
Yeah. If they, like, it's a paired item.
yep. Right. Yep, okay. I think second, I'll second.
Okay. You roll call vote, Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Turco.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Yeah.
And Chair Cayetano.
Yes, thank you all for that. I think I'm a little confused. Do you know when the item is going to council?
That's still a timeline that I need to pin down.
But it's not like next week.
No, it's not like next week.
Okay.
I think it is before our next meeting of the PAB, right? That's why we put it on this agenda, because we thought about pushing it.
I don't know, so the public safety committee forwarded it to council, but they didn't put it on the rules and agenda committee, so it's not on their,
It hasn't been on their agenda yet.
it's not on their agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
And until that point, it's not, like, it can go to the public safety, like, for example, the revision of the ordinance, it took 6 months for it to get back to council after they approved it.
Okay.
Okay. let's go to 9D. Which is discussion action on the proposed resolution, rescinding resolution number 514408, which is about air support helicopters, P9 units. So just for context, this is, I think just to take a step back, I think although we just talked about the pepper spray reporting requirement, I think it's significant that these were all proposed, essentially as a package deal. And to consider them, individually is to, I think, to do a disservice to what really the proposal is, which is, I think, a transformation of really decades of how policing in Berkeley has been. So I think there's a lot of significant policy changes that are being proposed. And I think really the action item before the board right now is to ask the Public Safety Committee, who had tabled the item, to wait until we're past our core items that we're dealing with right now. Mainly the drone item, because we have limited capacity in being able to handle them. And on top of it, obviously they haven't made a recommendation, but the draft letter, I forget what page it's on.
91.
91 is essentially to ask the Public Safety Committee to pause and to allow us to focus on what the council has prioritized for us, which is the drone policy. And to put this on the back burner until we're able to address that. I think that's essentially the recommendation that's in the draft letter. So I just to clarify, like to frame what's on the table here for the board.
We're being asked to vote on whether to send your letter.
Page 92, yeah, this letter right here. That's what's in the, yeah, that is what is being asked at this moment, yeah.
I support that, because I think that we should weigh in, but we have a lot going on in 4 people.
Yeah.
So I'll second your motion.
Well, was that actually a motion?
I'll make the motion, and also just to clarify, the letter also specifically says, do not go forward with this until we're able to, we don't advance it until, so. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a motion, or just to approve this letter as is.
And seconded by Vice Chair Wilson, Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Bustle,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Yes.
And Chair Cayetano.
Yes. Okay, great. We're gonna go to,
these last 2 items aren't time sensitive, just being conscious of that it's 9:30 and we do have a pretty long closed session.
okay.
So if the board would allow it, we're willing to just table these items and bring them back.
I'm good with that.
What are the last 2 items?
The policy, 0007 and.
The work plan.
The work
But we
plan.
also have this update on, I thought, on the military equipment issue. That was in the supplemental.
Oh, that was on 9C. That was what,
So we're done with that?
we can worry about it.
Oh, we don't need to do it because it's not time sensitive.
It's
It'll
not time.
report back. Okay, and then the report back from the retreat.
That's enough.
I guess we're skipping more than 2 as far as I can tell.
It might be confusing, but the initial military, I believe the memo you're referencing is the one with the table comparing the old ordinance with the new ordinance for the military.
That's in the supplemental packet.
Okay, sorry, now I'm.
And we also have we also have to follow up with a retreat. I'm fine postponing, I just want to make sure I know what we're postponing.
We're postponing discussion of 0007 policy review. And also 9F, which is the presentation of the work plan and calendar of events.
And it has the recap of the.
Which has the recap of the retreat.
Okay.
You need a motion?
Well, I can't bring them up.
No, but does someone need to bring a motion?
Well, I'm asked, I don't know, Vice Chair Wilson, are you good with that?
I'm fine with it. I'm not tracking how the 2 packets are aligning with one another. So.
Okay, I'll make the motion then, the table 90 and F.
I second.
Okay, Board Member Wells,
Yes.
Board Member Bustle, Vice Chair Wilson,
Yeah.
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna go to item 910, which is presentation, or sorry, public comment.
So that's item 10. We'll start with those physically present. 3 minutes on the
I
clock.
won't take three minutes. Thank you. I just wanted to, it's nice to see you all. I've never been in this room before, so I'm enjoying it. I wanted to point back to what Director Mario noted at the beginning, that the board is within its authority to suspend the rules and allow public comment. And it was, I think, very appropriate when you did it today. I've said this before, I do think it would be nice if there was like a method for the public to say, hey, this, if there was like a lot of public comment on this pepper spray item, we're gonna take it, you know, and it would be nice for the public to have a way, whether that's through the chair, through the director. I just would like to request that, because I think sometimes people in the room have been following these issues for decades and have something to share. I also wanted to just correct, I think, a misstatement that the police budget is 30% of the city budget. It's
The general fund.
but that's wasn't what was said. So I just want to say it is 30% of the general fund, excuse me, and I think maybe 12% of the overall budget. A lot of people throw that number around, so I think it's important for people to know what it is. And then another side comment, as you know, as the sheriff pointed out, there's a lot of changes to the tools, to the reporting. A massive change that happened last year was the encryption. And as we're losing a lot of data, losing reporting narratives, like we're also losing the ability to monitor what's going on. And there have been, you know, the department has made some tools available. They're not a replacement. And as everyone is increasingly concerned about generally what law enforcement's doing, we just have less ability to know what's happening. And I think it would be cool if at some point, when there's time, for the board to maybe look at what other California cities have done to allow radio traffic to continue to be public. You know, it's not short term, but other cities have found ways. And I think if anyone could, it's Berkeley, especially as we're bringing in drones and finding efficiencies, and like, let's spend the money on keeping things transparent for everybody. So that's my pitch for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Okay. There. Yeah, there we go.
Of the accountability and the reporting, you know. There was a lot of tear gas incidents in the 2014 around the winter time. And there was a massive archive of compiled photos and videos of the cost tear gassing a bunch of students, a bunch of civilians, a bunch of people who were just out in the streets. And that's no longer accessible. So I just think that's interesting. And so I think when we're talking about like posting these things, there's also supposed to be a special website dedicated just to that, just to the report of how the police were being protesters and tear gassing people. And that's just no longer accessible. So I know that's not really you guys' forte, but you know, that's something to consider when we're talking about, oh, well, this could be publicly available. It's only been 11 years, some of us still live here, and that's just, you know, vanished for some reason. And feel free to try to access it, I've been trying, but just something to consider when we're talking about all these tools that supposedly will be posted online and the duration for that and how accessible they are.
Thank you. Any additional public comment from those in the room? Seeing none, I'll now move on to our virtual attendees. Ilana Arbach, you've been granted permission to speak. 3 minutes are on the screen.
Hi there, thank you so much. So I just wanted to make a comment about the drones, and it's what we know from the city auditor is that the vast majority of what the Berkeley PD are doing are non-criminal calls. I don't remember the statistics, but it's high high percentage of their time. This is why in 2020, the city council created a specialized care unit. Unfortunately, that was undermined. Police department refused to work with them. We no longer have a specialized care unit that's responding to non-criminal crises in our city. So that means the cops are responding to all of these crises. So why do we need a drone when what they're responding to are primarily the very small percentage is crime? So everybody needs to understand that, and to give them more toys and more militarized equipment and more surveillance capabilities, this is not the right moment to be doing that. What I know, because I've been cop watching now for over 5 years, whenever and because I stop and I watch when the Berkeley police are engaged and I'm out and about in the community, there are always multiple police officers, 3, 4 cars on the scene. So this whole concept that there's staffing issues and there's limitations and all of this, I I wonder about that. Based on what? Based on because the police chief says that we don't have staffing as much as 180 officers or however many that they have allocated. So I would recommend, as the Police Accountability Board, you all be extremely conservative about agreeing to whatever the cops want right now. What we need is to show that we want police oversight and to shine a light on how the council is not allowing police oversight, because that's what's happening. And we know that's what's happening. That's why 2 of your colleagues resigned last week. That's why, this whole effort is imploding. So thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, Chair, we have no additional hands raised.
Thank you all for public comment. We're gonna go now to closed session.
Any audio, video recording will now stop. We'll return to announce closed session actions. Chair, we are live.
We're gonna take agenda item 12, announcement of closed session. We heard updates on caseload of the staff and also approved staff recommendations on a number of cases. And with that, we'll go to agenda item 13, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.